Good day everyone, Brad here, and today we're taking a look at Disney World down in Florida and Disneyland in California. And we're going to compare the two parks. When I say this, I mean the Magic Kingdom over in Disney World, just specifically that park, and then Disneyland Park over in California. A lot of this stuff is pretty similar. You get the main streets, the same land, a lot of the same rides, but I'm going to go through each area. The goal here is to point out significant differences between the two parks, and then I'll let you know which one I prefer for each section of the park. And then at the end we'll do an overall comparison and see which is better. Now we're going to start this list off in Main Street, USA, which of course both parks have. This is kind of an iconic Disney thing when you think of a Disney park. You come in, you get the grand reveal of the castle. However, the castle is much bigger in Disney World than in Disneyland. Now the first thing you'll notice coming in, other than the size difference in the layout of the train station, is in Disney World you'll have the Harmony Barber Shop. This is kind of tucked away back in the left corner. This is something you don't see in Disneyland, and it's a fully functioning barber shop. I've actually been there a few times. It's a lot of fun and the prices are completely reasonable. Then you have the character meetup over on the right side of the town center, whereas you would have great moments with Mr. Lincoln in Disneyland. Now the rest of Main Street is pretty typical in both parks. A lot of the shops are moved around, but it's kind of the same feel. Now restaurants are going to be different. So in Disney World you have the Crystal Palace, which is your character buffet. And then you have Tony's Town Square restaurant, which is right there in the main plaza section as well. And then you have the Plaza restaurant over on the further end. Now in Disneyland, some things that stand out that are different. They still have the little small theater where they're showing different cartoons. A lot of animated classics, 6 of them at the same time, and kind of a roundabout theater that a lot of people aren't even aware is there. Then you have the Carnation Cafe for food. You have the Jolly Holiday and Plaza Inn. I'm not going to be including every single restaurant in this list as far as things that are different, because there's a lot of little stands and carts that it would take all day. But the corn dog car, the little red corn dog car, this thing is worth mentioning. The Disneyland corn dog is legendary, and you'll find this at the end of Main Street to your right. Between these two main streets, I'm going to have to give the nod to Disneyland, because one thing I didn't mention yet is that Walt actually walked these streets. Of course, it's a lot of history and heritage here. Then there's the fire station, which I didn't mention, but his apartment is up there on the second floor. Also, with the corn dog and Jolly Holiday and the fact that they have Mr. Lincoln there, and they have a better art store as well, Disneyland Main Street wins this round. Alright, and next we're taking a right as you enter the park. Same location in both of them. We're going to Tomorrowland. Now, taking a look at Disney World's Tomorrowland, they have some considerable differences than in Disneyland. So Disney World Magic Kingdom has the People Mover, which is fantastic. It's great that they have that. Disneyland got rid of theirs. They changed it into rocket rods, and it's been sitting there rotting away ever since. And then you have the Carousel of Progress, which oddly enough used to be in Disneyland, and then they moved it to Disney World. Both parks have a Space Mountain. However, Disneyland's is much better. There's only one car, and you sit side by side, and it has music, and definitely is the better Space Mountain of the two. Astro Orbiter, both parks have that. However, in Disney World, it's kind of sitting on the roof of the People Mover. In Disneyland, it just kind of sits there on the ground level at the entrance of Tomorrowland. Now, as far as food goes, you have Cosmic Rays, which is just a massive standard theme park fare. That's going to be in Disney World. And then there's the Laughing Floor as well, which is kind of a comedy show, an interactive comedy show, very similar to Turtle Talk with Crush. Now over at Disneyland, some unique things we have, and their Tomorrowland is Star Tours. This is the same Star Tours you'll see over at Hollywood Studios. Then you have the Launch Bay, which is just a showcase for Star Wars memorabilia. They both have Buzz Lightyear, except Disneyland's a little better. You can actually take the gun out of the holster and shoot it instead of in Disney World, where it's just mounted there in place. There's the Nemo Sub. This thing is it's pretty big. It's a submarine ride. It's been there for a long time. Unfortunately, they changed it to Nemo. I wish it was the original still, though. Then you have a monorail stop here in Tomorrowland. because the monorail only goes to Downtown Disney and Tomorrowland, which seems like kind of a weird route, but that's what it is. As for food, they have the Galactic Grill, which is kind of the equivalent of Cosmic Rays over at Disney World. A lot of standard theme park burgers, chicken, all that. And then they have the Alien Pizza Planet, which honestly I actually always forget is back there. It's kind of tucked away by Space Mountain, and here's where you can get your Italian, mainly pizza. All in all, both parks, Tomorrowlands, could use a lot of work. They're just really showing their age. But I'd have to give the nod to Disney World, mainly because of the People Mover and the Carousel of Progress, which ironically enough are two things that are showing their age. But that's really what puts that one on top. So Disney World's Tomorrowland. Moving on to the back area of the parks, behind the castle, the location is the same in both parks. We have Fantasyland. Before we get any further, though, let's talk about the castle itself. In Disney World, it is a restaurant, Cinderella's Royal Table. This is one of those hard-to-get reservations, but it is a princess dining experience. Meanwhile, Disneyland has a castle walkthrough, which is just a retelling of the Sleeping Beauty's story. Kind of a better deal, in a way, I'd say, because you don't have to pay to do the castle walkthrough, but it's difficult to get in the castle in Disney World. Now, Disney World's Fantasyland is huge, so we'll just start going down the list of some of the differences here. We've got the Little Mermaid, the ride, but then you have the Ariel Grotto meet and greet with Ariel herself. Now, the ride is a carbon copy of the one in California Adventure, if you've been to that, but still, great ride overall. Then you have the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. This is a very popular coaster they have there. We've got the Winnie the Pooh attraction, which is different than the one in Disneyland. Disneyland's is located in a different area of the park, but we'll get to that later. The Enchanted Tales with Belle. This is a fantastic kind of blend of attraction and princess meet, because you get to meet Belle, but it's also an experience in itself. Then you've got the Filler Magic Show. This is the same one you see in California Adventure. They brought it over from Magic Kingdom to California Adventure. Then you have the Fairy Tale Hall, which is a meet and greet for all of your princesses. I believe this changes out every once in a while who's there. And as far as restaurants go, you do have the tavern where you can get LeFou's Brew. But the popular one here is Be Our Guest. This is a Beauty and the Beast themed restaurant. And then you have the Pinocchio Village House. Now over in Disneyland, they have a very small Fantasyland. However, they hold a lot of rides in here. There's a lot of little dark rides and whatnot. So you've got Snow White, which currently is going under renovations because that has been one of those opening day attractions. Hopefully they're fixing the ending. If you've been on it, you know what I'm talking about. Then you have Pinocchio. This is a really fun one. Pinocchio's Daring Journey just kind of summarizes the story. You also have the classic Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. That one's been there for a very long time and probably there to stay. The Alice Dark Ride, Alice in Wonderland. This is a really fun one, and it's great that they have that, and as far as I know, it's the only park that has that ride. Then you have the Storybook Canal and Casey Jr. Circus Train. These are great because they're kind of intertwined with each other, so that really helps save a lot of space because of how small their Fantasyland is. Then you have Matterhorn, I suppose. There's kind of debate whether this is a Fantasyland or a Tomorrowland attraction. In fact, there's two tracks on it. One's known as the Fantasyland side, the other's the Tomorrowland side. But I want to consider it more of a Fantasyland attraction. And then we have, as far as eats go, there's the Red Rose Tavern, which was recently rethemed to be a Beauty and the Beast restaurant. And that's going to be your main one over there. Now, between Disney World and Disneyland's Fantasyland, I'm going to have to go with Disneyland's. As tough as this is, it's very small, but they've got so many great rides in there. I mean, Casey Jr. being one of my favorites. Snow White, Pinocchio, Mr. Toad, Alice. These are all things, and then in Matterhorn, if you want to count that. All things that just really make it a fun area, and a lot of these rides are so quick to get on. Disneyland is the winner. Disney World and Disneyland have kids sections as well. Disney World, they kind of got rid of Mickey and Minnie's Toontown and added this Storybook Circus area. And inside there, you have the Dumbo attraction, which got moved into here. So now there's two of them, which helps with crowd control. They have the Barnstormer, which is like a kiddie coaster. The Casey Splash area, this is like Casey Jr. and just a fun area for kids to play. And they also have Pete's Silly Sideshow, which is different types of character meet and greets, a lot of the main Disney characters out there. Over in Disneyland, they still have the Mickey and Minnie Toontown, which is very well themed actually. There's a lot of interactive things to do in there. They do have a Roger Rabbit dark ride attraction. This one's actually a lot of fun and allows you to spin the car on your own. They have the Go-Go Gadget Coaster, which is kind of like the Barnstormer, same kind of feel. And their character meet and greets are like Mickey and Minnie. You go into their houses, walk through it, and you get to meet them in the end. Between these two, I'm going to have to give the nod to Disneyland's Mickey and Minnie Toontown. Not only because of the things I just mentioned, but there are plans to open Mickey and Minnie Runaway Railway there as well. That'll really bring a lot of crowds back there because from what I hear down in Orlando, that's a fantastic ride. Definitely looking forward for that one to come. Now this is actually getting pretty long, so I'm going to have to split this video up into a couple chunks. It might be 2 or 3, but the plan is to cover all the parks and point out significant differences from Disney World, Magic Kingdom, and Disneyland Park. But that's going to do it for now, so thank you all for watching. The caravan is moving on.